Blessed afternoon to all. Welcome to the first tourism webinar of Palm-Champs Tourism Development Committee. This is Donna Ravina, General Manager of Microtel by Wyndham Pampanga and a member of the committee, and I will be your host for today's webinar. May I invite everyone to feel free the presence of the Lord as we listen to our opening prayer and to be followed by the singing of the national anthem.
Our everlasting Father, the core of every reason, source of truth. You who made the earth and the heavens are the ultimate goal of every knowledge seekers, the infinite wisdom, the cause of all that is good. We are truly grateful for this opportunity to gather together as a community despite the challenges we face each day. Yet you remained and gave us strength to carry on the responsibilities of bearing conscience, using them for better purposes. We now humbly ask you to join us in our endeavor to explore the wonders of life in the world for knowledge's sake, that in whatever we learn today, we become more grounded to you, who is truth, who is love. We pray that you bless our speakers, the fount of your infinite knowledge, that they can share something worthwhile despite the limited time we have. They can channel all they know and share to us the beauty and truth of living as your child. We pray that you guide our participants, the seekers of your boundless knowledge, that they may continue to persevere in the search and be deemed worthy to share what they learn from today's session. Sanctify us, O Lord, not because we are worthy of it, but because we believe in your love and mercy, that at the end of the day, we can take home something that's amazing and meaningful. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang magiliw, ewas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang binirang, tuyang ka ng magiting, sa manluluping, di ka pasisigil, sa nagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mo babaw, ay hinagang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang lang atawag mo'y tagumpay na nagiging, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magiging. Lumanang araw ng warhabit pagsikta, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang hinihaya ng partay pag-aamit, at mamatay ng langit sa'yo.
Thank you, everyone. You may sit in the comforts of your place as we present to you the webinar for today. Before we call on our director in charge for her opening remarks, may I just remind everybody once again to please rename your accounts to our standard format, that is company name first, then your name. Please make sure all your microphones are muted in the entire webinar to better hear our speakers for today, and video comes on. Should you having questions for our speakers, you could drop them in the chat box and our moderator would be picking them up from the chat box for our speakers. This way, we will be able to manage the platform more effectively. Lastly, this webinar is recorded for documentation purposes only. Thank you. And now, to officially give us all a warm welcome, may we call on Palm-Champs Tourism Development Committee Director in Charge, and the president of the MB Garbes Realty Services. Let us all welcome Director Marilu B. Garbes.
Good afternoon. We, the members of the board of PAMCHAM, since its inception, has always taken the best interests of its member companies as its first priority. In this time of pandemic, we witness its tremendous effect to the economy of the whole world, where most companies collapse, a horrendous scene, unbelievable, unpredicted. The worst scenario that happened in the whole world under our own two eyes, with our hearts grieving in disbelief and pained our innermost souls. But we Kapampangans made of steel, resilient as we are, for having risen from ashes of Mount Pinatubo, and with our strong faith in God, we in the board always find ways and means on how we can weather the storm and bounce forward. One of the most affected industry is the tourism industry today. With the IATF health protocols, lockdowns, quarantines, and all, we are a witness to a number of airline companies that closed. Chains of 2, 3, 4, 5-star hotels and resorts folding up or maintaining minimum branches. Exclusive and first-rate restaurants also met its toll, and more so, the small eateries and carinderias. Tourist attractions and spots were closed, especially the resorts with swimming pools. The multiplying effect was horrifying, as a large sum of travel agencies also closed shop. The population of the unemployed reached a very high mark. More Filipinos went hungry and angry, and the economy sank at its lowest ebb. Hence, the Tourism Development Committee conceptualized this first of a series of webinars with the theme, Bounce Forward, Travel and Domestic Tourism in the New Normal. Our sincere attempt to leap forward, to rise and clear the way to a bright day, believing in the saying that after a storm is a beautiful rainbow, the rebirth of the tourism industry in Region 3. We have invited only the best speakers for this event, Ms. Cheng Pangilinan, Tourism Officer of the City of San Fernando, Ms. Noemi Julian, Manager, Tourism Promotions of CDC, Ms. Mary Jamel Kamba, Manager, Tourism Development of SBMA, Mr. Irwin Lingat, Tourism Officer of Mabalacat City and ATOP President. Takalpong salamat for gracing our invitation as you share with us your valued time, knowledge, and wisdom. I wish to thank the proprietor of Global Access Travel and Tourism Committee Chairperson of PAMCHAM, Ms. Marcia Hernandez and its members, and the Secretariat for making this webinar possible. Joyce, Noy, Kleina, Len, and Randy, and the technical team. Ladies and gentlemen, members of PAMCHAM and guests, we are extremely happy for your attendance this afternoon, most especially to my fellow members of the board. Isang maganda at pinagpalang araw po sa inyong lahat and welcome. Please enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Director Malu, for welcoming all of the participants to this webinar. Before we further proceed, we would like to thank our corporate partners, which we will be announcing later, and thank as well our event sponsor, the Alviera Country Club, a seamless collaboration of urban development and nature. We'd like also to acknowledge our board of directors present here in the platform as follows: Chairman Jess Nick Dow, Nidal Group of Companies, would like to apologize for the technical problem. Apologies. To continue, last October, the Department of Tourism, through its Secretary of Tourism, Honorable Bernard Romulo Puyat, had led the inoculation of more than 4,000 tourism workers in the province of Pampanga, who are all deployed in hotels, resorts, and other tourism-related industries and its support services. This vaccination drive of the tourism department will help boom the tourism sector of the province. Pampanga, dubbed as the culinary capital of the Philippines, will be revitalized and will soon help generate jobs amongst its people and provide, as our provincial government 21 on the movement of the residents, allowing minors accompanied by their parents to obtain essential outside of the establishments, to obtain 50% capacity on the indoor and 70% capacity at the outdoor, provided that all are vaccinated. We believe that the tourism and travel sector is slowly bouncing forward. It is therefore timely to hear from our invited guest speakers to share with us their locality's travel and tourism updates and protocols. Friends, allow me to introduce our first speaker for today. Our first speaker for today is currently a faculty member at the College of Hospitality and Tourism Management at Don Honorio Ventura Technological State University, and is currently the tourism officer of the city of San Fernando, Pampanga. Friends, let us all welcome the hardworking Ms. Ching Pangilinan.
Thank you very much, Ms. Donna, for that a very generous introduction. Good afternoon, and maya paoras po kayo, especially the distinguished members of the Pampanga Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So please allow me to share my presentation with you as we share to you some of our best practices in the city of San Fernando as part of our pandemic response. So for this afternoon, let me share with you our presentation entitled City of San Fernando, Pampanga, Tourism Industry, Surviving and Building a Better Normal. So as with everyone, we first experienced the lockdowns starting on March 2020. But as I recall, as early as January of that year, we were already under certain restrictions following the announcements of the Department of Health against mass gatherings or gatherings that had more than 1,000 people. So during that first quarter of the year, while we were preparing for our traditional Holy Week and cityhood anniversary celebrations, we already had these restrictions in place. And we didn't know that by the time that March 16, 2020 would happen, it would be such a drastic change in our lives. And today we commit ourselves to rebuilding tourism for the future with our City of San Fernando COVID-19 policies, responses, and recovery. So the city tourism offices roll together with the City Arts and Culture and Tourism Council of our cities. Pandemic policies and responses actually fall within the greater framework of the City of San Fernando's rehabilitation and policy framework, specifically under the second pillar, which is economy, in which it has been identified that the promotion of local trade and industry and the improvement of tourism activities through the use of adaptive platforms must be taken into consideration. And at the same time, under number 4, or governance, in which the city envisioned that a pandemic-resistant and intelligent economy should be made possible through the building of city digital infrastructure. So what has happened in the city of San Fernando as part of our COVID responses? And later on, I will try to answer what have we done in terms of inching towards a better economic recovery. First of all, the City of San Fernando City Tourism Office is part of the city's COVID-19 incident management team, in which we are tasked under two groups, which is the task group on management of returning overseas Filipinos and locally stranded individuals, and the task force on business and events regulation. And let me share with you some of our activities under this specific task groups, which are part of the response system of our city government. So under the task group on the management of returning overseas Filipinos, or ROFs, one of the objectives is to ensure the proper facilitation of the ROFs and other travel requirements for those who are traveling outside their areas of responsibility. So since 2020 to the present, we have maintained our task force help desk that is being run by the City Tourism Office at the city government, or at the City Hall. Under this, we have been able to assist our returning overseas Filipinos. We monitor the ROFs currently housed in different BOQ approved hotels in our city while they are waiting for their RT-PCR results. We continue to assist locally stranded individuals, monitor registrations in the S-Pass, and even go as far as to facilitate transfer service for locally stranded individuals in need of transportation assistance. We also provide social welfare assistance in the form of food assistance, temporary shelter assistance, and transportation assistance to our Kabalen LSIs or ROFs as the need arises. For the number of overnight stays of those who are quarantining in our 6 BOQ approved hotels, we've seen a constant rise since January of this year. And as part of our early recovery efforts, we were also one of the first LGUs outside of Clark to allow the quarantining returning overseas Filipinos and OFWs to check in our facilities, which are later on accredited by the Bureau of Quarantine. So part of the overnight stays that we've been monitoring is that of ROFs who are staying in the city of San Fernando while waiting for the results of their RT-PCR. So these are just some of our BOQ accredited hotels that are being used as quarantine facilities. The Orchid Gardens and Mystic Lane, Red Manor, Microtel, Bendix, Tavern, Grace Lane, even Mara Hotel. And right now, since we have a very positive and optimistic outlook when it comes to managing cases on the ground, we are looking at supporting our hotels as they transition into multi-use facilities, aside from being just plain BOQ approved hotels. And at the same time, we currently have a number of hotels that are assigned as isolation facilities for COVID positive patients. So the other task force that we've been working on is the task force on business and events regulation. So under this, the city government through our city mayor Edwin Santiago issued an executive order that looks into the regulation of events and social gatherings in our city. And later on, this would be adopted by the provincial government in the subsequent executive orders that were issued by the office of our governor. So under this particular task force, we've been steadily monitoring the constantly growing number of events as people are transitioning to embracing our lives in the new normal. So under the vaccination program, as mentioned earlier by Ms. Donna, our very own DOT Secretary, Berna Romulo, personally launched the Tourism Frontliners Vaccination program in our city at SM Pampanga earlier this year, during which about 910 of our tourism frontliners were vaccinated under A4 priority group. So we continue to vaccinate, or the city continues to vaccinate our economic frontliners. And so far, close to 90,000 have been vaccinated under the and 73,000 have been vaccinated fully, with their second dose. But out of those, initially, 910 tourism frontliners were vaccinated through the DOT program, while the remaining tourism frontliners were served by the city government of San Fernando through its vaccination rollout. During the pandemic, we private and public funding made available to them. So, for example, the city government provided food packs to resort workers and workers in entertainment establishments when the province looked at heightening the restrictions, in which resorts and bars and resto bars remained closed. And during that time, the city provided food packs to our affected workers. One of our programs in which the private sector played a very significant role is the Kalinga sa Cochero at Caballo program, which benefited our 40 cocheros flying the routes of the city government as part of our Preserving Heritage for Progress program, in which during the extreme lockdowns, food packs and cash assistance was provided to the cocheros, especially those who are acting as tour guides under the city's tourism programs. And with assistance from the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, we were also able to provide cash assistance for cultural workers, musicians, dancers in our city during the height of the pandemic. Currently, the city is transitioning towards its recovery under the Task Group on Economic Recovery, in which we belong, have several programs, projects, and activities regarding our continuous recovery towards building back better as a principle of the RRM. So last September 27, in celebration of the World Tourism Day, we launched the first digital edition of our Tourism Star Awards, which is now on its 5th year, which is designed to recognize and acknowledge individuals and businesses in the travel and tourism industry, which have exhibited the highest level of dedication, creativity, and excellence. We were also able to give recognition to our tourism partners who delivered excellent services and experiences and were able to adapt best practices and innovation. So we were able to recognize and highlight the role of our tourism COVID heroes, especially our hotel and accommodation facilities that served as isolation and quarantine facilities, for example. And we also cited or gave recognition to our tourism-related establishments that have sought DOT accreditation. So this is a local version and a local initiative, aside from the different awards that are being given by the Department of Tourism. And this is spearheaded by our City of San Fernando Arts, Culture, and Tourism Council that is chaired by Mr. Jim Jimenez and Dr. Lourdes Javier. We also continue to promote a clean and safe tourism-related establishments through our Safety Seal Certification Program. The lead for this is our Business Permits and License Division, in which business establishments are encouraged to comply with the minimum public health standards that are set by the government, by the national government. So thus far, we have more than 200 business establishments, which have been awarded with the Safety Seal certification, including our 6 major malls, 20 restaurants, and our banks and those in the services industry, such as our fast foods, amusement centers, recreation centers, gasoline stations, and pasalubong centers. We also have strengthened our city's participation in the DOT accreditation program. And this is one of the this is one of the functions that will be partly devolved to local governments as part of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling, in which the implementation of and monitoring of accreditation standards at the local level will be done by the concerned local government units, while accreditation or certification would still be done by the Department of Tourism. So in 2019 vis-a-vis 2021, we can see that in most of the sectors, we've noted a significant increase in the number of accredited establishments or tourism-related establishments. For example, from just 6 DOT accredited establishments in 2019 under the accommodation sector, we currently have 27 as of 2021. 3 MICE facilities that have been accredited by the Department of Tourism, 7 restaurants, 1 agritourism site, and 8 travel and tour agencies. And sadly, it is under this particular sector, under our travel and tour agencies, in which we've seen the decline in our industry. Recently, we've also looked at the necessary revisions of our community-based tourism development plan that was spearheaded the members of our City Arts, Culture, and Tourism Council, in which we sought to revise the existing tourism development plan of our city to adapt not just to a new, but to a better normal. And one of the highlights of which is the development of food and gastronomy tours within our city, during which we had more than 20 stakeholders from the different sectors of our city actively participating and coming up with at least 4 food and farm tour packages that we can look forward to as we embrace our lives in a better normal in our city and in our province. We've done several productions of virtual tours in our city, highlighting our DOT accredited restaurants, our historical sites, and even our agricultural and farm tourism sites in San Fernando. And we're just so amazed with the wealth of wonders that we have in our city, as we see that we have more options for visitors now more than ever. And this is quite a blessing that we have realized when the pandemic happened. We continue to support our local women through the conduct of our mompreneur fairs or women entrepreneur fairs in order to continue to empower the livelihood of women in our city, especially those in the barangays who are under the One Barangay One product program. And especially this coming holiday season, we also have several of these lined up, especially in time for our Giant Lantern Festival for this year. Now, one of the most, I think one of the most outstanding and awesome breakthrough initiatives that not just the tourism industry in our city was able to do, but the city government as a whole and the city of San Fernando private sector was able to do is the Giant Lantern Festival in 2020. So we were able to execute a digital edition of our well-loved Giant Lantern Festival, in which 7 barangays participated in a friendly exhibition in which we upcycled lanterns that have been shown previous years. And this really is a testament to how strong the public and private partnership is in our city, especially when the city of San Fernando Giant Lantern Festival stepped in to contribute the initial funding for the barangays to be able to participate for the 2020 Giant Lantern Festival. So during this time, we continued the use of our incident command system as part of our event action plan that was approved by the regional IATF. Under this system, the ICS is actually one of our hallmark systems under the DRRM, in which we are able to provide a standardized all hazard incident management concept that would allow us to cater to different kinds of emergencies should they happen during a planned event. So among the more practical uses of the ICS as a system would include social events and cultural events like the Ligligan Parol or the Giant Lantern Festival. I cannot be more proud in saying this over and over, but the Giant Lantern Festival was really the collaborative effort of the city government, the Giant Lantern Festival Executive Committee that was chaired by Engineer Felix Paras last year, and the Giant Lantern Festival Foundation that is presided by Sir Bongma, and of course the participating barangays. Because aside from being able to preserve our traditional giant lantern making intangible heritage, this was also our best gift to the world when we were able to showcase our lanterns in a digital format. The numbers were really good. During our succeeding nights, we were doing live streaming for almost 2 weeks. One of our videos alone garnered about 2.9 million views, no? And 77,000 comments and reactions. And it really had a very good organic post reach of close to 8 million. This is actually a bigger reach than what we had pre-pandemic. Wishing that after the pandemic's over, people would want to visit us during the Giant Lantern Festival and the rest of the year because of what we've shared to them during the height of the pandemic. So currently, we continue to monitor the conduct of safe events in which our event organizers and events facilities are required to present certain documents such as infection control policies and event layouts with seat plans and testing and isolation plans, plus whenever possible, the guest list in advance, because this would serve as their contact tracing and monitoring form. Because while we are able to embrace our lives in a better normal, we have to think at the back of our heads that the virus is still there and we are battling an unknown enemy. We've also taken good use of the time during the pandemic by putting in infrastructure in place that would support tourism in a better normal. So aside from the parks that are being developed all over the city, including the town center, the esplanade near the new convention center that's also being built along the tourism road, and the river walks. Earlier this year, we had the groundbreaking for the Giant Lantern and Tourist Information Center at the Pascuhan Village, and we hope that by February of this year, we would be able to bless this and open it to the public as a way of sharing to the rest of the world our amazing Giant Lantern tradition and cultural heritage. So right now we're currently preparing for the Giant Lantern Festival, and we look forward to seeing you in San Fernando again when things are better. Thank you so much, PamCham, for your continued support and help. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us through our socials, www.facebook.com/smartfun in San Fernando, or email us at csfptourismofficer@gmail.com. Dakal pong salamat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ching. I believe everybody has been looking forward to the city's upcoming activities, especially the most awaited Giant Lantern Festival and the CSFP Better Normal. We would like to request Ms. Ching to stay in the platform until the question and answer portion, should there be any questions that needs to be addressed. Thank you, Ms. Ching. Moving on, we'd love to hear some tourism updates in Clark, Pampanga. And to give us this information, I would like to present our next speaker for today. She is a graduate of AB English and has a master's degree in public management from UP Diliman Extension Program. A part-time professor at the Mabalacat City College Institute of Hospitality Tourism Management. She has been with Clark Development Corporation for more than 20 years now. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome CDC's Tourism Promotion Manager, Ms. Noemi Julian.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that very nice introduction. Good afternoon to everyone, especially to the officers and members of the Pampanga Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the other key players in the tourism industry, also my fellow speakers today. On behalf of Clark Development Corporation, allow us to thank you for inviting us in this webinar to share with you our journey in Clark, especially on the area of tourism, towards recovery and the new normal. So at that time, flashback from last year, when the government announced the first lockdown, Clark continued its operation and accommodated more than 2,000 Clark employees working for Clark manufacturing firms and BPOs. At the time, workers po kasi were not allowed to go to work unless, of course, they be transported to and from the workplace, or they are accommodated within a few kilometers from the area of work. So also last year, at the height of the pandemic, when we received thousands of repatriated Filipino overseas workers and returning Filipinos via the Clark International Airport. So despite the ECQ and MGCQ declaration of the government for the province, most of the Clark establishments remain open, especially the hotels, manufacturing and industrial firms, as well as BPOs. Although it is not the most ideal situation, Clark hotels and accommodation establishments in the cities of Angeles, Mabalacat, and San Fernando, and of course in Clark, were able to survive somehow because of the repatriation program of the administration. So however, as we are all aware, tourism is the industry that has been badly affected by this pandemic. When our statistics were soaring in 2019 with almost 4 million arrivals, the number dropped to 1.2 million in 2020. This is more than about 60% lower from the previous year. We were also hitting an average of 3 to 4 events per week in 2019, which dived less than 50% in 2020. So due to the government restrictions, we had to adopt protocols for health and safety of the visitors, workers, and guests in Clark. These protocols were patterned after the guidelines set by the IATF. Sorry, I was informed that my slides were freeze. Let me share again my slides po. I was told that the slides were... I hope that you can all see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much po. So moving on. Due to the government restrictions, we had to adopt protocols for health and safety of the visitors, workers, and guests in Clark. So these protocols are patterned after the guidelines set by the IATF, similar to other provinces, DOT, DTI, DOH, and some from the other LGUs concerned. Because we want to make sure that we reopen Clark gradually and safely, we issued the following general guidelines. So of course, we all do this. We wear face masks, we check temperatures, we observe social distancing, and we actually mandated the use of the Stay Safe mobile application for all of our tourism-related establishments. And now we are also requiring other establishments to ask for vaccination card for fully inoculated individuals. Okay, as of date, Clark is open for leisure travel for all ages under MGCQ, GCQ, and those traveling point to point. Provided, of course, that over 65 years old individuals, pregnant women, and those with underlying health conditions will show their vaccination cards. Of course, restricted to travel still are individuals from ECQ, MECQ, and areas under Alert Level 5. We also strictly observe guidelines set by the Department of Tourism and IATF with regards to the accommodation establishments. Since we are under Alert Level 2 and MGCQ, all ages are allowed for staycation in Clark's leisure and multi-use hotels. So CDC also made sure that our hotels follow the requirements of the government prior to its operation. So yan po yung kanilang mga requirements, and they need to submit all of this and pass the requirements before they started the operation. So shown on screen is the latest classification of our accommodation establishments in Clark. So we have multi-use facilities. We also have quarantine facilities. They remain quarantined up to this time. And we also have leisure facilities, including Clark Marriott, Hilton, Fontana, and other tourism-related establishments. So we also strictly follow the allowed operational capacity for venues. So 50% for indoor and then 70% for outdoor venues. As an added value, of course, our major hotels in Clark applied and were granted subsequently with the prestigious Safe Travel Stamp by the World Travel and Tourism Council, or WTTC. The Safe Travel Stamp by WTTC is the world's first safety and hygiene stamp awarded to establishments that have adopted global health standard protocols. So this is in preparation for the reopening of tourism, especially for foreign tourists, and of course, the full operationalization of our Clark International Airport. So since events are already allowed depending on venue capacity and the extent of the event, we also released a calibrated process if you want to hold your events in Clark open spaces. So organizers just need to submit their letter of intent to CDC with attached health and safety protocol. So the process usually takes about 3 to 7 days upon completion of all the requirements. So as shown on the screen, we devised a detailed process to aid event organizers. Large-scale events, however, may need the approval of the IATF. This is similar to what we did with FIBA, PBA, It's Showtime, and other similar events. So as previously mentioned, our focus now is to ensure the safety and security of our visitors, as well, of course, our Clark employees. So last October, we held the ceremonial inoculation of tourism workers with none other than DOT Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat and Secretary Vince Dizon as our guests. So far, 91% of our hotel employees in Clark are already vaccinated, along with 82% from our restaurant and dining facilities and 42% from our tourism attractions. So hindi lang naman po yung tourism workers, but even the other workers from the different sectors are being inoculated by our own CDCSU, led by our Doc Menchi Dobles. So in terms of events, Clark hosted the following bubble events in the midst of the pandemic. It was not an easy feat to hold such an event under the present circumstances, but we were able to stage it successfully and became the model for all other bubble events in the country. So the 4th, 5th season of the PBA was held in a bubble format last year, and it was followed by the 4th to 6th season in a semi-bubble format this year. We also had the FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers with participants from 7 countries, including our very own Gilas Pilipinas team. Clark also became a favorite bubble training ground for volleyball, swimming, and cycling events. And this year, lock-in tapings were also held here, including the live airing of It's Showtime from Hilton Clark Sand Valley, Wawawin at the new Clark International Airport Terminal, And of course, the Miss Universe Philippines beauty pageant, also at the new Clark International Airport Terminal. So due to the previous ECQ status of NCR and NCR Plus, we got numerous requests for lock-in tapings and shootings for teleseries from major TV networks. We also had very recently the Horse Fest, which is an annual festival here in Clark, led by, of course, the tandem of Mr. Sheriff Gabi Lao and Ms. Rina, I think, who is also in this webinar. Hello, ma'am. Okay, so other notable projects that we recently launched and are currently working on are the Aitana Farm Fresh Market, which is already open to the public. This project aims to help the indigenous people by providing them a special area or a one-stop shop where they can sell their products in Clark. And then talks are also ongoing with the Department of Tourism, Quest Plus, and other stakeholders in Clark for the launch of the Clark Golf Bubble as a means to attract the foreign market once international travel will be allowed at the Clark International Airport. CDC will also launch soon the new Clark Visitor Center, which will serve as a major touch point for tourists arriving to Clark. This is strategically positioned adjacent to the Clark Museum and the 4D Theater, facing the Clark Parade grounds. So while we were not allowed to operate fully, we took that as an opportunity, just like Ms. Ching said, to think and plan for projects that will support the reopening of tourism. So we produced the Clark virtual tour that highlights several exhibits at the museum. Clickable hotspots display information about the selected artifact or panel, and a virtual guide welcomes online visitors at every gallery. The virtual tour will enhance the museum's digital presence, accessibility, and reach. We likewise started early this year the production of the new Clark Tourism AVP, which will be completed before the year ends. We will make sure that PAMCHAM will have a copy also. And then when you visit the parade ground soon, you will notice installation Instagrammable art structures to add interesting spots within the 22-hectare area. This December, we will also launch the Clark Bikers Pit Stop, which is another project to transform Clark into a biker's haven. The pit stop will be located at the back of Texas Instruments building. It is envisioned as a one-stop shop featuring retail spaces that can be rented out, such as cafes and food kiosks, bike parking area, self-service bike cleaning kiosk, parts and repair shop, first aid clinic. So this pit stop is also equipped with restrooms, pump truck, and outdoor gym. The design of the pit stop will take inspiration from the surrounding greenery and promote eco-friendly, sustainable design. This will be launched most likely in December. Last October 2020, also we got a request or a proposal from Go Clark Sports and Events, a local bikers group. And this proposal actually is about the Clark Cross Country River Trail. So we took up this project and we will soon establish this alongside with the Bikers Pit Stop. And then the phase 3 of the bike lane project, which is now towards the new Clark City, which is aimed also to promote the Freeport as a green, walkable, and bike-friendly community. So if you go to Clark now, you will see that we already have almost all the roads in Clark are biker-friendly. In addition to this, of course, we installed biker-friendly signages intended to give bikers a safe and fun experience while cruising the lush greenery of Clark. And then to top it all, more tourism-related establishments are opening soon, including the major addition to our 5-star accommodation facilities in Clark, The Swiss Hotel and Casino under the Han Group of Companies will open its doors in December. So abangan po ninyo yan. Some are actually curious, no? They thought that it's a mall. No? It's actually the Swiss Hotel in Clark. And then I'm sure that everybody's also excited to see the new Clark Safari. Okay, this will finally open on December 8th this year. And then March of next year, Aqua Planet is making its comeback. So as presented and on a final note, we are delighted to tell you that Clark is definitely bouncing back with a vengeance. So to know more about the different activities and attractions and other new establishments inside Clark, you may actually go to our Facebook page, to visit Clark Facebook page, and also the Clark Development Corporation Facebook page. So yun lang po at maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Ms. Noemi. Believe that Clark, Pampanga has a lot of tourist spots where our Kapampangans can visit, especially this upcoming holiday season. And based on your presentation, I think our Kabalens will feel the ease of safety as they visit these parks, museums, duty-free shops, and others. Kindly stay with us, Ms. Noemi, until the question and answer portion, should there be questions that should be addressed in the webinar. Before we give you our next speaker for today, I would like to acknowledge our corporate partners and event sponsors as follows: Nidal Group of Companies, Romac Group of Companies, Bank of Florida, Lupo S. Ramos and Company, Holy Angel University, Central Luzon College of Science and Technology, Federal Express Pacific LLC, First Mega Saver, Infi Creations Multimedia Production, G Partners and Creatives Business Process Outsourcing, Metro Pacific Tollways and NLEX Corporation, VMware Software Development, Central Country Estate Inc., McKinney Food Corporation, Mike Hotel by Wyndham Pampanga, Hotel Grace Lane, Converge ICT, Royal Security Agency Inc., Fiesta Communities, Bertafil Inc., Burness Law Offices, Chaucer's Choice Food and Development Corporation, RDF Feeds Livestock and Foods Inc., Lalamu Philippines Inc., Chonko High Tech Construction Materials Corp., The Medical City Clark Inc., Sunflare Industrial Supply Corporation, Genesis 999 Realty Corporation, Charon Poc Fund Foods Philippines Corp., Caroline Development Corporation, Real Steel Corporation, and our sponsor for today, Alviera Country Club, Inc. Going back, let us move up a little farther from the province, a place close to the heart of our Kabalens, as they enjoy the island hopping, the beaches, and other tourist destinations. We'll be briefed by our next speaker. She graduated in the top 10 of her class with a degree in BS Management from Ateneo de Manila, earned her master's degree in management UP, and was the sole representative that was granted a scholarship by the Dutch Embassy to study sustainable tourism management in the Netherlands. She continues to lead Team Tourism and Team Subic as they strive to surpass the effects of the pandemic on a market a safer and sustainable top destination. Friends, we bring to you as our next speaker, SBMA's Manager of Tourism Department, Ms. Mary Jamail E. Kamba.
A fantastic afternoon to everyone. First of all, allow me to thank the Pampanga Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to your webinar this afternoon. Kahit po hindi ako from Pampanga, ang Subic ay medyo malayo sa Pampanga. Ako naman po ay isang Kapampangan. Ako po ay taga-Angeles, so I am happy that I have been invited to this afternoon's webinar. So allow me to share my screen so that I can talk to you about what we have in store for Subic. Okay, so this is, we only have about 10 slides because I focused on the direction of Subic moving forward, but I'll just inject some information as we go on. Okay. Can you see the video?
Yes.
Okay, so just for everyone's information, Subic Bay has been a top destination, not just in Central Luzon, but in the Philippines. In fact, we were part of the top 10 destinations in the Philippines in 2018. Actually po, in 2017 naman, hindi lang po tayo recognized in the Philippines, but also in Asia. We were declared the top sports tourism destination in Asia by the SPIA. So starting 2017, 2018, and 2019, nakakakuha po na tayo ng mga awards for being a top sports tourism destination. We also have a lot of other accolades that we can claim for our own. We are a top bird watching and ecotourism site. We have a premier convention facility here in Subic. And we just recently po, starting 2018, nagiging top cruise ship destination na rin po tayo. So as you all know, nangyari po ang pandemic. So there were a lot of changes. We had a lot of events in store for everyone for 2020. However, because of the pandemic, nag-stop po lahat yan. Just so you know, in 2019, our visitor arrivals was at 9.6 million. And our tourist arrivals was at 1 million people with a hotel occupancy of 60%. Noong nangyari po yung pandemic pagdating ng 2020, our visitor arrivals dropped to 5 million, but I'm happy to say that as of October 2021, we are doing 60% of our visitor arrivals. So nasa 5.8 million na po kami as of October. So we hope tumaas pa po yan, umabot kami kahit 80% of 2019 level. So these are our visitors and guests, whether it's for business or pleasure, dito po sa Subic. In terms of tourist arrivals naman po, from the 1 million in 2019, for 2020, we only had 286,000 tourists. But for 2020, as of October, we already have 540,000 tourists coming to Subic Bay. Kasi po mapapansin nyo, marami from Pampanga ang pumupunta sa Subic. Kung ano lang po yung minimum requirements or standards set forth by the IATF, yun lang din po ang sinaset namin. Because our stand really is to not become too strict when it comes to entry protocols, but be very strict when it comes to implementation of the minimum public health and safety protocols. So doon po kami nagpo-focus to minimize the number of cases in Subic. So just for your information, since the start of the pandemic, we've only had less than 300 positive cases here in Subic Bay. So ang dahilan po dyan is because we are very strict in the implementation of protocols, and tourism handles the inspection of all tourism establishments. So for everyone's information, Subic Bay is under alert level 2. These are our published protocols as of November 2. These are still in effect. For inter and intrazonal, of course, we are allowed to accept all those different ages. Same po with Clark, as mentioned, the following must be fully vaccinated and must present a valid vaccination card. These are those over 65 years of age, those with comorbidities, and pregnant women. Exercise has been allowed here since last year. I'm happy to announce that Subic Bay Tourism actually operates several sporting facilities. So we handle the operation of the sports complex. And starting December 1, we are reopening our covered courts for badminton and tennis, our sand court for beach volleyball and other sand court sports. And then the Subic Gym will also be open for basketball and volleyball rentals by December 1. Okay, and then also the same with the other destinations when it comes to dining in restaurants, 50% of indoor venue capacity for fully vaccinated individuals, and then 70% for outdoors. Okay, we also operate the chapel in Subic. The San Roque Chapel is under the operation of and management of the SBMA Tourism Department. So sinusunod din po namin yung 50%, 70% capacity. Okay, we've also started accepting MICE events specifically for our own convention center, which is also run by the Tourism Department. So in our latest announcements, due to the changes already, we announced that kids are now allowed in indoor establishments with strict adult supervision and observance of minimum public health protocols. And of course, the announcement on the voluntary wearing of face shields. So hindi na po siya required. Just so you'll know, these are the following are the attractions and areas that are open to the public as of the moment. So we have our golf course, the Subic Bay Golf Club is open to the public. And marami po this pandemic na natuto at nahiling na mag-yachting. So napakadami pong offers for yachting, for yacht rentals in Subic, either through the Subic Bay Yacht Club or through Watercraft Ventures. Meron na pong dock for the yachting services. You can rent a yacht for exclusive use, or you can share a yacht with others that are not really close to you. Maki-close po kayo sa kanila during the sunset cruise. So, and may mga dinner cruises din po na ino-offer. So, ayan, ito po yung medyo mga nag-in during the pandemic. Okay, so we have here some videos of our theme parks and water parks. So we have the Moon Bay Marina Water Park, which is open to all. We also, of course, have Ocean Adventure and Subic Safari. Ito po, marami na po tayong ulit guests. All the hotels in Subic are fully booked. Lagi po, pag weekend, starting last month. And then another theme park is a Fantastic Park, which is really for the children. So, ayan po, open na po ito sa mga tourists who want to go to us, whether it's for the day lang or if you want to stay overnight. For the hotels, we have about 46 hotels operating right now. 25 are leisure hotels and the other 21 are quarantine hotels. So just visit our page, the Fantastic Subic Bay page, so you get more information about the hotels, the packages and promos of the hotels, and the other attractions in the parks. So meron na po kayo makukuha ideas from our page for your itinerary. Okay, for the beaches, we have 3 beach resorts open. We have All Hands Beach and Kamayan Beach Resort and Hotel, and then another water park with a beach, the Adventure Beach Water Park. Ayan po. So just for the information of everyone, for all the tourism stakeholders inside the Freeport, the average is 75% of all the tourism workers are already vaccinated in Subic. And then for our own office, for the tourism office, 99% vaccinated na rin. All right, so for other ecotourism destinations, you can do bird watching, nature tripping, jungle survival training, horseback riding. So saan po yan pwedeng gawin? You can go to Pamulaklakin Forest Trail, the Boton Falls or the El Caballo Falls. These are being operated and managed by our Katutubo brothers sa mga AITAS po. So sila po ang nagmamanage yan. You can go horseback riding in El Caballo Stables here in Subic. And then for bird watching activities or any trips inside the forest, whether magma-mountain biking ka rin, it's either you talk to Pamalaklakin or you talk to our ecology center for more information. Okay, for our events, for this year muna, we already had a lot of different bubble events. We had the PSL beach volleyball event. We had the MPBL bubble basketball event. We had just recently concluded the Phil Basket bubble event, which ran for about a month at the Subic Gym. We also had we also sponsored the training of the national volleyball team selection here in Subic and the Miss World last month. So for 2022, we're looking forward to hosting more events. In your screen are the events that have already been approved by the Regional Task Force or the Interagency Task Force. So January, we will have an event by the Philippine Coast Guard here in the Convention Center. And then on March 6th, this was recently approved a few weeks ago by the IATF, we will be hosting the Clipper Around the World Yacht race training and the actual restart of the race. So this will begin February, but the actual restart of the race is March 6th. So this is in partnership with the Department of Tourism and the Tourism Promotions Board. And we expect less than 300 foreign participants that already got clearance from IATF. Kahit po bawal pa po technically tourists, international tourists, they already got the clearance from IATF. And then we also have with us in the list the Ironman, the full distance Ironman, and the 70.3 Ironman triathlon races in March. So same day po ng Clipper is we also have the Ironman race. So if si Clipper po is about 300 people, si Ironman, we're looking at 1,200 participants for both races. So the route will be finalized soon. There will be some changes, but they will all be staying in Subic. So we expect, of course, the full bookings for all our hotels during this time. And then not yet included in the list, but recently discussed is an international concert to be held in Subic in April. And then for May, we have another triathlon, the Subic Day International Triathlon, sponsored by the Triathlon Association of the Philippines, with about 400 to 500 participants. And then on October, we have a T150 triathlon race under Sunrise Events with about 600 participants. And another triathlon, the My Daily Collagen Triathlon in December. So, kinatutuwa po namin na finally matutuloy na itong mga events na to, and we look forward to welcoming and accepting more bookings in the near future as we go back and try to go back to the usual. Dati po kasi sanay tayo sa 10,000 tao sa event. Ngayon po nasa-shock na tayo sa 500, sa 1,000. So, try po tayong bumalik doon. Of course, all of these events are approved by the SBME and the IATF or RTF to ensure that the safety of the public will be observed and maintained. Okay, so this year we launched bike tourism in Subic. I think that was September. On World Tourism Day, nilaunch po namin ito. Subic has been known to host a lot of cycling, triathlon, biking events. Kaya lang, yung dati po yun, events yun for those participating. These are people, we're talking about people that participate in actual events. But because of the pandemic, you get to see more and more people, regular people engaging in cycling. So, dumadami na po yan. Tamang-tama po, naka-line up ang aming new bike lane project by our Planning and Development Office that will be done by next year, and new bike routes together with a project with Tourism Promotions Board. Hopefully, we will finalize this with them. We will have a wayfinding project with them. So all of the major destinations or pocket destinations in the route will have information signages sponsored by TPB. And then nag-start na rin po, may mga na-sponsoran na po si Department of Tourism along some of the existing bike routes ngayon. So yun po is ongoing, and it will be continued until next year. And then another project that we are having next year is the Sustainable Tourism Summit. Supposedly, this will only be for the region. That was the vision for the vision of Subic, not to make it a regional event. However, when we met with some of the key people of Tourism Promotions Board, and of course, from the Department of Tourism, they want to make it a national event, and they want to make Subic the sustainable tourism capital of the Philippines. So this will happen next year, a summit together with awards for those establishments that practice sustainable tourism. And then we will also be opening soon a museum. We used to have a museum before, but then it had to close down. And now we're partnering with Chiesa to come up with our museum. It will be open hopefully by 2023, complete with the interactives and exhibits. And we also have different adventure theme parks in the works. We cannot divulge yet the information, but hopefully these will open next year together with mixed use and commercial developments in people in the junction area when you enter Subic and the central business district. So marami pong nangyayari in Subic. Hopefully when you visit us next year, you will see these developments. All right, so that's just it for us. If you have more questions or you want to know more about Subic, we always share and promote the different offerings and packages of our stakeholders. So just visit our social media platforms using the @FantasticSubicDay logo and text. So yun lamang po. We hope you get to visit us and experience a safe and sustainable Subic Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mary, for that presentation. For sure, our Kabalans will consider SBMA as their next tourist destination. Hearing all the travel and tourism updates in their locality, we know for sure that our Kabalans will plan their upcoming activities to those travel destinations and tourist spots. And for this sector, we are expecting that the travel and tourism industry will flourish once again after more than a year of this health crisis. More so, we are optimistic that tourism in Pampanga will make a major push to bounce forward. And why do we say so? Let us listen to our next speaker who will share with us Pampanga's tourism best practices. Our last, but definitely not the least, has been the Pampanga's Provincial Tourism Officer from 2009 to 2017. He is now the city's tourism officer of Mabalacat City and is currently also the national president of ATUP. Friends, let us all welcome Mr. Arwin Paul Lingat.
Good afternoon, Maya Pagatpanapon po. I would like to express my sincerest appreciation to the Pampanga Chamber of Commerce and the tourism section niya with headed by Ma'am Balu Garbes. And of course, I would like to greet special greetings to my esteemed colleague, Miss Ching, Miss Noemi, Miss Jem, no? Nakakamiss na ang face-to-face natin. So I would just like to share with you this afternoon what we are doing in Mabalacat City to help reopen our tourism activities. So welcome to Mabalacat City. Just a little sharing with you this afternoon. So with the directives of our city mayor, the first priority for the pandemic response is, of course, the vaccination coverage. So at the moment, our city is the first in Central Luzon to have this highest vaccination coverage for the whole Central Luzon. And for our tourism frontline workers, we are now a 100% with our total hotels and motels. These are hotels and motels outside Clark. So we are 100% fully vaccinated for our employees from our travel agencies, restaurants, and resorts and function halls. So our good mayor, before they start on the vaccination program for tourism frontliners, our city is already conducting its own vaccination to our tourism frontliners. Kasi ang target ni mayor is per establishment dapat kagad vaccinated. So what does that mean? We don't anymore classify different workers per establishment, but the target of our city mayor for the vaccination program of our establishment is per establishment. So that is why right now we are already on lining up our tourism workers for vaccination booster na. So this would be our target for December and early January next year is pagbo-booster na vaccination sa aming mga tourism frontliners. So right at the moment, as of November 21, this is our 6th day of zero COVID 19 infection rate, no? So 20 out of the 27 barangays in our city at this moment is now COVID-free. Let me share the screen. So wait lang po. Let's wait for my screen.
Naka-mute ka. Mr.
Okay.
Arvin? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's good now.
as our preparation for the opening of our tourism activities in Mabalacat City, we thank also our good partnership with Clark Development Corporation, especially on facilitating some of the hotels inside Clark for their vaccination program, and of course the big support and partner of Clark Development Corporation. So that is why we have 1,421 tourism frontliners, and we also add up 47 indigenous people, including the AITA tour guides, kasi medyo mahirap i-convince ang ating mga IP people on the vaccination. So with our ecotourism destination site for Haduan, we have vaccinated our AITA tour guides. So on our hotel statistics, we have experienced really in 2020 the hotel guest arrivals. So if you can see in the screen is there is really a big leap, no? Those who are considered excursionists, ito po yung mga nakapag-check-in below 12 hours, and then the rest, yun po yung, so kinakount din po namin sila. That is why for 2021, as of, this is statistics is as of October po, we have yung average length of stay nila is nasa 3 to 5 days, because some of our hotels here were also quarantine hotels by OFWs. So malaking tulong yung pag-avail ng quarantine hotels booked under the overseas Filipino workers. So it helped a lot, no, in the recovery of our hotel sector. So as of the moment, ito po yung some of the activities on the vaccination of our tourism frontliners. No? This one, it's yung mga AITA, no? So before pala we conducted this vaccination program for our AITA, may ano pa yan, may psychological and convincing activities before we proceeded with their vaccination. And then, of course, this is the partnership with the national government on the DOLE DOT financial assistance program. So our total tourism workers who benefited in the financial assistance program of the national government, it's a 10,005,000. So who are the beneficiaries of this? Ang aming mga AITA tour guides, mga golf caddies here inside Clark, napakarami nila, mga displaced tourism workers, and of course our Tricycle Operators Drivers Association. So for a total of 10,005,000 ang na-avail ng city government on this DOLE DOT program for displaced tourism workers. So here are some of the pictures and activities that the AITA tour guides that received the financial assistance program. And then, as part of the capacity building and livelihood, this is for our women sector and AITA group for coming up with our tourism souvenir products. So we thank our the Department of Labor and Employment for granting us a 500,000 worth of project that is intended for our women sector and AITA group, 18 of them that can avail this livelihood program. So hopefully by next year, we can have a very good souvenir products, tourism souvenir products that we can present to our tourists. And then, of course, since part of the reopening of our tourism activities, in partnership with the Department of Tourism Region 3, conducted this seminar for our hotel and restaurants in Mabalacat City, the Filipino brand of service excellence. So this will help first boost the morale of our tourism frontliners and the standards of our tourism industry as part of the reopening of this of our tourism activities, since our quarantine classification has been stabilized to MGCQ. And then we also came up with our cultural exchange program with our IPs. We brought them to exposure trips and at the same time, this was done in October as part of also of the Indigenous People Celebration and Tourism Month celebration, and display the products of our Katutubo in the city of Manila, so that our Katutubo groups, especially those who are handling tourists in the Haduan, can also experience by themselves being tourists. So that is one of the main purpose of this activity, to expose them to the different activities or to the mainstream of our tourism industry. And then our city mayor came up with this to boost again the confidence and the spirit of Christmas, and that's why we came up with a giant parole in our city hall, so that people can go and experience a giant lantern outside of San Fernando. So we thank our giant lantern maker in San Fernando for making a one giant lantern for Mabalacat City. Hopefully, this will encourage other LGUs also in our province, no, to have their versions of giant lanterns, no, as part of our heritage as Kapampangan. So again, Mabalacat being part of Pampanga, we are on alert level 2, and we are following health protocols as dictated by IATF. So there are not so many restrictions on the part of Mabalacat in accepting tourists. And then as part of the national campaign of our organization, the Association of Tourism Officers of the Philippines, we have this, I'm sharing with you this Pearl Awards call for nomination on best tourism practices for in times of pandemic, because our dream is to collate best tourism practice in times of pandemic and come up with a publication so that we can share to other people and the next generation on what we have experienced during this time of pandemic. Because as we all know, that tourism is the most vulnerable among all the economic sector. And at the same time, it was really badly hit during this pandemic. So hopefully, coming up with the collection of all of this tourism best practice, we can share it to our next generation on what we did, what we experienced, and what we are going to do to survive a certain pandemic regarding the tourism sector and industry. And then there is this National Convention of the Tourism Officers, and we are trying to come up with the hybrid convention to be done in Manila, by December. So this is part of the trial and error process on how we are going to properly, step by step, reopen our tourism industry, because this will help tourism officers experience, exercise how to conduct. That is the purpose. Tourism officers will be part of the preparation and exposure on handling hybrid events, no, for conventions and other MICE activities. So yun po, hopefully we can target our participants on a face-to-face hybrid pala convention this coming December 12 in Manila. So with all of this sharing, I thank again PAMCHAM for giving us this opportunity this time in sharing with you what we are doing here in Mabalacat City. May pagatpanapon po.
Thank you, Mr. Arvin, for sharing with us these best practices. That completes our lineup of speakers. May I remind everyone that should you have questions for our guest speakers, you can start dropping them at the chat box, and our moderator will be picking them up from there. Kindly indicate to whom you will be addressing your questions. Thank you. Once again, thank you so much to all our speakers who share their time for our webinar. And in appreciation, we would like to award the e-certificates to our guest speakers. Pampanga Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated awards this certificate of appreciation to our speakers, from whom I will be calling individually, in recognition of their invaluable support for sharing with us the business community, the tourism updates and protocols in the city of San Fernando, Pampanga, Clark Development Corporation, and Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority, respectively, and the tourism best practices in Pampanga as well. Let me call on our speakers once again. Ms. Ching Pangilinan, Tourism Officer of the City of San Fernando, Pampanga. Ms. Noemi Julian, CDC's Tourism Promotion Manager. Ms. Mary Jamel Kamba, SBMA's Manager for the Tourism Department. Mr. Arvin Paul Lingat, City Tourism Officer of Mabalacat City, as well as ATO President. Thank you once again. We will be sending your e-certificates to your respective emails. At this juncture, may we call on our Tourism Committee Chairperson, Ms. Marcia Hernandez, President of Global Access Travel and Tours and Adventure Asia. Ms. Marcia will be our moderator. Ms. Marcia, you can take the center stage already.
Thank you, Ms. Donna. We are now opening the Q&A portion. As mentioned a while ago, you may enter your question in the chat box, and I will be glad to air them to our respective speakers. To start the ball rolling, I have one question here for Ms. Ching.
Hi, Ate Marcia.
So here's the question. What about the event practitioners holding events in the city of San Fernando? How are they doing now?
Well, we work in close contact with the Central Luzon Event Suppliers Association. Earlier, late last year, we were one of the first cities to actually open the city to social events, provided that we follow the minimum health standards and protocols as stated by the executive order that was issued by Mayor Edwin Santiago last year. So we require that and I think this would be an important part of how we do events in the better normal. We would be very strict when it comes to the implementation of health standards and protocols regarding our MICE facilities and the way that we conduct events. So currently, we still have the task force of business and events a registration in the city. And through that, we are monitoring the conduct of events. Last year, as part of the cultural workers, we were also able to give financial assistance, through the NCCA and through the DOT TUPAD to some of our event suppliers, but syempre hindi naman natin malalahat. So but we were able to send some support to them during the height of the pandemic. So right now, we're still open to events. We've hosted several trade fairs and even bridal fairs and so on in our city. We work in close coordination with our MICE facilities as well, because our goal is to ensure that our events places are also safe and healthy for our guests who are visiting the city.
Okay, thank you, Jean. We have another question for, we have this question sa chat box. Let me, from our tourism director, Malugar, best all speakers, can you share your expertise regarding culinary tourism? Let's start with ano siguro, kay Sir Arwin.
Good afternoon. Right now, our city is conducting cultural mapping activity, but at the moment, we are thankful for Mabalacat City. We have our Lola Nor's, the restaurant of Miss Elsa Yabut. So what we are doing right now is on the culinary tourism side. If they want to experience culinary tourism for Mabalacat City, the restaurant of Lola Nor's, she is offering this culinary experience. We already did several visits there. Pag may mga bisita tayo coming from different places, other than offering the food that we have for Kapampangan, there is also this culinary activity na meron actual cooking of some delicacy, and then yung delicacy nila, yun yung mismong niluto nila, yun yung mismong kakainin nila. So right now, that is our partnership with our stakeholder. So it's also one way of promoting our local restaurants and facilitate activity in that same restaurant. Yun po.
Thank you, Sir Arwin. How about Ms. Noemi? Nandiyan pa ba si Ma'am Noemi? Siguro si ano na lang, si Miss Ching. Can you share?
Sure, Ate Marcia. As Arwin mentioned earlier, this year, the Department of Tourism Region 3, together with the Pampanga provincial government, through the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Office, they initiated the cultural mapping, particularly food mapping, of top Kapampangan iconic dishes, in which our different local government units participated. And we were able to, in that project, I think it's in the final stages now of being validated and prepared. It's actually in preparation for the province's promotion as a culinary capital. And in the future, There are also plans from, I think, from the provincial level and the regional level that perhaps Pampanga province would be able to be nominated as UCCN or UNESCO Creative City for Gastronomy. But in addition, in the cities, when we revisited our community-based tourism development plan in the city, it was one of the main aspects that we recognized that gastronomy tourism or food tourism will be part of our building back better, especially here in Pampanga, since we have a wonderful an array of culinary gems. Wherever you go in Pampanga, you have culinary experiences and adventures that are waiting to be discovered. No? But in our recent familiarization tour as part of our food and farm tourism tour packaging development workshop, we were just so amazed with what else is new that we can promote to our tourists, aside from traditional Kapampangan cuisine and even Kapampangan fusion dishes. No? For example, when you talk about farm tourism, you know that Wilson's Instant Tree Bank has already been on the forefront of offering mulberry picking and fig picking experiences, and this would add to the offerings, to the culinary offerings and tourismic offerings that we have in the city. And they have also ventured into developing products made from this fruits. No, also we have several new tourism related investments in the city that have to do with food as well. These are homegrown brands that would be that we can look forward to as becoming tourism players also in the coming years. But definitely in the city, while the number of restaurants have that are registered with our business licensing office have been affected by the pandemic, we've seen the rise of online marketplaces that are dedicated for food within our community. And I'm pretty sure that all of us would know someone who has discovered that culinary talent that has long been hidden. So we're very excited with this, in addition to our traditional brands that are well loved and are still there. After the rehabilitation of the San Fernando Public Market, we also plan to bring back our Palenque tours, which we've already started prior to the pandemic, especially the culinary delights that are waiting to be discovered within our downtown San Fernando.
Thank you, Ching. How about sa SBMA, Miss Mary Jamel? Can you share?
Yes, Ms. Marcia, for Subic, well, hindi kami katulad ng levels ng Pampanga. Siyempre kayo ang culinary capital. However, here in Subic, we have hosted several international food festivals individual. Kunwari, a Korean food fest, Taiwanese food fest, ganun po siya dito. In fact, we were supposed to host and stage an international food festival that will become yearly, supposedly 2020. We were thinking of moving it to 2021, kaya lang hindi tayo sure ano ba talaga ang mangyayari. So we're moving it to 2022. But just so you'll know, this coming, I think December 9 to 11, I'm not really sure about the final dates, there will be a Taiwanese food fest here at the Subic Bay Gateway Park. So nagsastart na po yung mga ganyang activity. So we have that. Kanina po na-mention ko rin ang dinner cruising. So isa siyang bagong form of partaking of food, pero it's in the yacht. So marami ngayon na nag-offer nito. Either you rent the whole yacht or you just book per head. It depends on the food that will be offered, kung magkano yung pinaka-rate. So that's something that is new here with us. And then of course, we've also been featured this year in Foodprints by Chef Sandy Daza, promoting the top restaurants in Subic. Kasi mostly dito lagi ang pinopromote yung beach, yung theme parks, 'di ba? Pero ito po, we're happy that for this year na featured din kami for Footprints. We will not reach the level of Pampanga, but we'd like to, of course, establish some well-known restaurants that people will go to just to have a meal here. So yun po, basically that's it for culinary tourism here.
Thank you, Ms. Jamel. We have another question from CLTV 36. What are the challenges until now in reopening the tourism industry in the region? These questions to all speakers. Can we start with Ms. Noemi?
Hi, again, I'm back. Sorry po, I had some phone calls. Anyway, the challenges, I think it's not only for Clark. I think I speak also for the other regions, other destinations. The challenge is that we cannot fully reopen. We want to open the destination to, especially for the foreign tourists, since we have an airport here in Clark, and we want to take advantage of the airport. However, because of the restrictions, of course, we understand that we have to balance the economy and the safety of the people. So I think gradually we're opening up. Right now, I think IATF released another classification for green countries, for yellow countries, and hopefully magkaroon na ng guidelines for foreign tourists to come in, no? So that our airport will have more flights aside from domestic. Kasi right now po, our flights are only for repatriated Filipinos, no? And for returning Filipinos. Hopefully, we'll have more, flights already coming from different destinations for leisure travel. So yun yung isa sa mga, I think, challenge sa atin ngayon, no? We're aiming only for domestic market. Hopefully, soon enough, we'll have more foreign tourists.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Noemi. How about Sir Arwin?
I agree with Ms. Noemi, no? Especially not only for but especially the whole Philippines, kasi this is the clamor of the tourism officers of the different parts of the Philippines. Unang-una, restrictions. So this is the problem when we are creating the tourism travel bubble. Kasi paiba-iba ang restrictions depende ngayon kung anong alert level ka. So that is why what is important right now is gradually reopening your tourism destination and tourism activities. We cannot really open big bang, no? Talagang dapat paunti-unti, pakonti-konti, because it's a pandemic. From time to time, there are changes. From time to time, may mga challenges tayong na-experience. So right now, may mga nababalitaan na tayong surge from Europe. So we don't know here in the Philippines. That is why what is important right now is continue our COVID response program. So, for example, on the vaccination, no? Tapos yung ating mga emergency and health facilities, always ready sila. So, para hindi mag-boomerang yung problem again na kasi or sisihin tayo na kasi nag-open up kayo or what. So, I think having a very good vaccination program in coordination with your stakeholders, and at the same time, the availability of our health services and facilities, I think gradually we can reopen and help, no, address challenges that we can experience.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Arwin. Can you share then, Ms. Chi?
Yeah, just to add to what has already been mentioned, I think one of the important lessons that the pandemic has taught us is that all things being equal, health and safety would always be of primary importance. And this has been proven true so many times. It put the world on a standstill. So moving forward, we know deep inside that things will never be back to normal, but we could always build back a better normal, meaning the kind of tourism experiences that we will be developing at our level within the context of sustainable tourism would also be more meaningful and more experiential. So mass tourism is something that we cannot really go back to given the challenges of the time. So moving forward, whether as tourists or as tourism policy planners for that, we look at the continuous vigilance of our stakeholders and our governing bodies, in our cases, the LGUs and the GOCCs, in order to balance reopening and response together in one equation. So on our end at the city government, we would want to see that establishments would be very vigilant in upholding the standards on their own, with or without policing from the government. Meaning, at this point, we've been under the state of public health emergency for more than 500 days. We've been part of the Emergency Operations Center since day one. The people on the ground would already be very tired. So merong that kind of fatigue na rin from our workers or frontliners on the ground. So at this point, we have to look at it and practice self-discipline then. For example, dito we've opened some tourist attractions that are privately managed, and we've gotten a lot of flack on the online and social media platforms on the lack of social distancing and so on. But on the other end of the equation is that you have parents who bring out their children into public who also have that responsibility to supervise such outdoor adventures, meaning it's a shared responsibility. And the way that we will be building back better in tourism will always be a shared responsibility with between and among stakeholders, whether in the public or private sector.
Thank you, Ms. Ching. How about sa area of ni Ms. Jamel sa Subic?
Yeah, so same naman po yung challenges natin. Of course, it's all about maintaining and observing the public health and safety protocols as we reopen. So this is really a challenge. That's why it's very important that the local government continues to monitor observance and implementation of the protocols sa level ng stakeholders. So like in our case, kahit hindi namin talaga siya responsibility, isang taon na kami nag-i-inspect of the ng mga stakeholders, especially during the weekend. That is our role. During the weekday, it is the role of another department. So sila ang umiikot sa mga stakeholders na non-tourism related, kami naman sa tourism related. So it's very important to always check, kumbaga mag-spot check unscheduled inspections. Of course, kasama niyan, dapat talaga ma-up yung ating vaccination percentages. That's really the key so that we can minimize the cases. And then another challenge really when we were talking about events is the process, kasi it's very hard to have an event approved right now, especially sporting events. So kami na napakadami naming sports events, ang hirap-hirap po na ang daming dadaan ng proseso. And we really appreciate the support of the IATF and the Regional Task Force dahil hindi po biro yung additional task na ginagawa nila dahil ang dami nilang chine-check at ina-approve na event. So yun po, malaking bagay. We're actually waiting for word from IATF. We inquired yesterday, baka daw po magkaroon ng changes sa protocols na yan because nga all sporting activities are already allowed. So baka po magkaroon ng changes sa process. So we're looking forward to that to somehow unburden the organizer, the LGU, and the RTF when it comes to events. Kasi events po, malaki ang dala rin ng crowd at malaki ang impact sa mga stakeholders. Big thing po ito, especially for Subic. And then another challenge is maintaining the lessons that we have learned during this pandemic. Kasi dito natuto tayo na napaka-important ng sustainability. In Subic, parang for the past years, we have been questioning kung hanggang kailan ba kami magpo-promote. Diba? Hanggang saan? Hindi naman pwedeng you always beat your record. Lagi na lang bang yun ang habulin natin? So we've been questioning our own carrying capacity in the past years. And true enough, nag-matter siya during the pandemic. So ngayon, tama yung sinabi ni Ms. Ching, I don't think we will return immediately to that. Maybe there will still be a lot of mass events in the future, not in the near future, maybe in the next years pa. Pero hindi na pwedeng laging ganon. We really have to make sure that we practice sustainable tourism. That's why for 2022, yun po yung maging push ng Subic, the practice of sustainable tourism in all aspects, in policy, in the actual conduct of the event, lahat from the main organizer to the supplier. So it's a complete outlook for sustainable tourism, including the academe, including the local market. Lahat po, yun po yung aming nakikitang challenge na tutulan natin sa pandemic and kailangan ituloy natin para hindi, kapag dumating ang ganitong pandemic ulit, hindi tayo natataranta, diba? And mas na-maintain pa yung ating mga natural attractions and destinations.
Thank you for that, Ms. Jamel. Another question, sa lahat siguro ng tourism office, are there any available planned events of calendar per city tourism office we can get? Let's start with siguro, Ms. Ching.
Yes, Ate Marcia, we do have our fixed calendar for the whole year. So we can just get in touch with them after our webinar.
Okay.
All the time alone, I need you there.
How about the Miss Noemi? Do we have
yes, Ms. Marcia, we can share the calendar of events for 2022. We'll just siguro email it or drop it off kung saan, sino bang nagtanong. Hopefully they can also give their email addresses, no, so that we can email them directly.
Yes, siguro just the same with Sir Arwin and Miss
Yes po. Send us na lang po their email addresses so we can send it to them directly.
Okay. Let me see po kung if there's a question pa. CLTV36, do you have any figures regarding loss in the tourism industry in the region this year?
I think, Ms. Marcia, that can be answered by the Department of Tourism collectively, no, for the region.
Okay. Meron akong may another question pa dito, Ms. Noemi, kasi parang hindi lang na rin kanina. For Clark Biking Hub, there will be a bikes for rent also?
We're actually looking at that possibility. We're talking to some suppliers, no, patterned after the bike rentals in other countries, where you can just go to that area and then get a card or something and then bike around and then ibalik yung bike dun sa bike rack, no. We're looking at that and we're talking to some suppliers na. But we haven't really locked in the agreement already with the supplier. So meron na pong planong ganoon, no, as part of being a bike haven.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think Ms. Donna, do we have other question pa?
Not anymore.
Okay.
We don't have any questions na, Ms. Marcia.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you to our Vibrant Tourism and Travel Resource speakers for this afternoon. wraps up our question and answer. Thank you for your participation. I am now turning the screen over to our MC, Ms. Donna.
Thank you, Ms. Marcia. At this time, may we request everyone to open their videos so we will have a photo opportunity with our speakers. We will be having 3 screens, so just flash those beautiful smiles as we capture the picture. Let's start with the speakers together with Director in Charge, Ms. Malu, and our chairperson, Ms. Marcia. Director Malu.
Yes, yes, yes. Come again.
We will have the photo opportunity now.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Madam. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you. Next slide, please. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
We would like to inform everybody that PalmCham will be celebrating its virtual Christmas party via Zoom on December 14, 2021. That's Tuesday. It will be a Christmas Carnival virtual party, a celebration of gratitude and hope. Will be graced by Converge CEO, Mr. Dennis Uy, who will be with us and give us an inspirational message. There will be fun, contests, games, prizes, and raffles. We encourage members of PalmCham to join our celebrity impersonation contest. We'll be having a wine toast at the end of the virtual party to mark a better year for all. So block the date, December 14, 2021, 5 to 7 p.m. and join us. And the membership committee brings to you its Member Get Member program. Any active member of PalmCham can refer a company to a committee for processing, and for every successful referral, you get a 500 pesos rebate, which will be deducted in the payment of the annual dues on the next year. So we enjoin all members to join the Member Get Member program. So that's it for our events and announcement. We hope we have given you relevant information on the updates in the tourism sector, and to give her sentences and closing remarks, may I give back the screen to our committee chair, Ms. Marcia. Ms. Marcia.
Thank you, Ms. Donna. Indeed, our afternoon was very informative, fruitful, inspiring, and there's a bright outlook for the tourism and travel stakeholders in our region. With actual stories and best practices we learned from the city of San Fernando, Mabalacat, Subic Bay, Clark. Collectively, this will be our head start and tools to face the next new normal as we welcome 2022. I am sure our attendees had a lot in their notes that they can apply in their respective business, office, and industries. On behalf of the director in charge of PalmCham Tourism Development Committee, Director Malu Garbes, and yours truly, Marcia Hernandez of Global Access Travel and Tours, we are thankful for the time and fountain of wisdom that our resource speakers shared to all of us today. To Ms. Ching Pangilinan of City of San Fernando, Ms. Noemi Julian of Clark, Ms. Mary Jamel Kamba of Subic Bay, and Mr. Arwin Lingat of Mabalacat City. To the PalmCham Secretariat and to our attendees, thank you for staying with us in this webinar. On behalf of the PalmCham Chairman, Justic Dao, President, Architect Nestor Mangyo, and to the Board of Directors, maraming salamat po. Let us all be in this together. Let us conquer again, travel by air, land, and seas. Once again, thank you so much and good day po.
Thank you. Steve.
Thank you once again for joining the webinar. Thank you also for our event sponsor, Albiera Country Club. This is Donna, your host for today, saying thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, everybody.
So
Good afternoon.
again, thank you. And I would like to say hashtag I am PamCham. Stay safe,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Tech Team. Thanks, everyone.
Sa Bangko, Florida,